Let's talk binge eating, because whether you do it occasionally or you struggle with it on a more consistent basis, it never leaves you feeling good, right? You feel sluggish physically, you feel uncomfortable physically, you feel down and discouraged emotionally, and oftentimes filled with a lot of guilt and shame. The reality is, most of us have been there. I have certainly been there. It's not something we talk about a lot, right? It's one of those dark secrets that we kind of just don't want to really admit. And yet it is really, really common. It's one of the things that drives a lot of discouragement, a lot of shame, and feeling like we just don't have enough self control. But I want to offer to you that there's something more fundamental at play. And learning about our physiology, learning about our relationship with food can be a significant help as we seek to overcome and have greater attunement and learn how to eat in a way that honors our body's needs. I've talked in a past video about the guilt deprivation cycle, and that's an important part of this. And what I want to do in this video is build on that with the principle of habituation and how that can really help us overcome the drive to overeat. So let's dive in. First, I want to describe a few really common scenarios that are often at play, right, when we are overeating. There is the phrase that we've often said to ourselves. I've certainly said it to myself: I'm going to eat better tomorrow, right? I vow to eat better tomorrow, which means today I better eat this food while I can get it, right? And that drives to that overeating. Sometimes that can be triggered by just a past experience of restriction. This food has been restricted before for whatever reason. Maybe as a kid it was restricted, or maybe in a dieting phase it was restricted. And now we still kind of carry that belief of restriction, right? And we still get to that response of, I've got to eat it now while I can get it. Or it may just be a food that we only eat on special occasions. And so when those special occasions are here, or if we eat it, that's when it's not really that special occasion, we still have that belief that it's not something I can get very often, right? And so we have this idea of novelty around this food that drives us to eat it as much as we can get it when we can get it, right? We notice what's in play, right? I've got to eat it now while I can get it because I may not be able to get it tomorrow. Right? This is a really common principle that many of us experience. It's a balance of the novelty of that food versus building greater familiarity with it, right? A process of habituation. Really important principle that we can leverage to decrease that drive to overeat. So let's talk about habituation. We've all experienced habituation in different areas of our life, right? If you think about that shirt that you loved, or those shoes, right? They were so new and exciting and cool when you bought them, and you just loved them and you wore them as much as you could, right? Because they were fun and new and exciting. And then over time, they became more familiar and they cycled into your wardrobe, right? Just like all of your other clothes. Or that song that you heard for the first time that you just loved and couldn't get enough of, and listen to, because it was so exciting and so pleasurable, right? And then over time, as it became more familiar, it cycled into your normal rotation of songs, right? I've experienced that with movies. Maybe you've experienced it with relationships, right? It's a normal human experience that when it's new and novel, it has a certain amount of excitement, an elevated hit of pleasure, right? When we engage in that thing or hear that thing or eat that food, right? Whatever it is, that novelty has an extra hit to it. Food is the same, right? If food has that novelty to it, there's an extra hit of pleasure that we get when we engage in that food. It's exciting, it's new, right? It's not always available. That is novel. And then that process of habituation allows that to sort of to wear off, right? To where it has less of a draw and it just cycles in with all the other normal day-to-day things that we experience. That's habituation. With food, what we want to do is leverage that to our benefit, right? Leverage habituation to our benefit when it comes to eating and those foods that have that extra excitement or that extra draw for us, right? We want to leverage habituation. One important thing to note, this is not just filling your pantry, right? Stocking your pantry with all those foods that you have that extra draw towards. That's not what it's about. It is about increasing or making it available on a consistent basis in your diet, right? Every diet, we want that foundation to be built on like 80% high nourishing foods. And the 20% we can cycle in, right? Some of those extra fun foods. And we want to bring those in on a regular basis enough that they don't have that same draw, right? That same draw to cause us to go back for just one more, because I don't know when I can have one more later. That's what we're working towards. There are 5 principles that I'm going to teach you to begin this process of habituation with foods. And the first 3 of these principles are actually just building that foundation for the last 2 principles to work. Okay, so the first 3 are building that nourishing base. The first part of that base is to nourish your body consistently, right? So this looks like eating every 3 to 4 hours, eating protein, fiber, and fat every time that you eat. Because the truth is, the single highest driver of overeating is overhunger. If you let yourself get too hungry, you will overeat. And it's not about your self-control. It's not about the food that you're eating. It's just that physiologically, your body is just trying to be fed. Okay, so make sure you are feeding yourself. That's the first principle. The second one is to build in non-food pleasures into your life. Food is a source of pleasure. It's supposed to be a source of pleasure. That is a good thing. But if it is your only source of pleasure, you will find yourself going there for times when you're not even hungry, right? When food really doesn't even fit the situation, right? But you just need that hit of pleasure. We all need a little bit of a break, right, from the heaviness of life. So building in non-food pleasure, whether it's cultivating a new hobby or skill, building relationships in your life with people who really fill you up and you feel that connection with. Maybe it's going out for a walk and spending time in nature, right? Whatever that is, building that robust kind of pool and resource of external pleasure or pleasure that's non-food is a really important part of this process. The third one is to attune to your body, your eating experience, right? This is the process of learning to experience your hunger, experience your fullness, experience your satisfaction with food. That's tuning into those sensations. Okay, those are the first 3 principles. That's building that healthy base. That's that foundation, right? And once you have that in place, you can begin to build that familiarity with those forbidden foods, right? You can take them from novel status into habituated, right? Familiar. That's what we're looking for. So instead of banning them, buy them. Instead of only having them in special occasions, sprinkle them into meals, right, on a consistent basis. So if it's chocolate, maybe just including that little square of chocolate at every single meal, right? Surrounded by all of the nourishing foods, but it's just something that is included on a regular basis into the way that you eat, right? You're decreasing the power of it, increasing the familiarity to that food. And then finally, stop using restriction as a strategy, because restriction and paired with novelty, those 2 together are really powerful driving forces to overeating, right? Again, it's not a sign of a character flaw or a weakness in you. It's that you're combining 2 other powerful forces, restriction and novelty. And when they come together, right, they drive overeating. Nothing unique about you or broken about you. It's just humanity, right? It's just part of our physical experience. And so make sure that you're not using restriction as a health strategy. Use nourishment as a health strategy and find that way to incorporate these foods on a consistent basis, paired with, partnered with, right, dressed with these more sustaining, nourishing foods. Those are the 5 strategies. So if you are struggling with overeating, know that there is a way out. You do not have to stay stuck in those cycles. And part of the process, one of the things that you can do to begin that is this process of habituation, building familiarity with those foods that you were restricting before. You use this in principle with the guilt deprivation cycle that I share there's a video that I made on overcoming sugar addiction, right? If you go back and watch that video, and pair that with the principle here around habituation, those can be really powerful steps towards ending that cycle of overeating, which is, I promise you, a very possible thing to do. I'd love to hear in the comments, what is one thing that you are taking away, one thing that you want to try, or maybe one food that you want to begin habituating towards by increasing it in small amounts, right? In that bigger context of a nourishing diet, increasing it into your meals so that it can become more familiar and hold less draw on you. Please share in the comments. I'd love to hear any questions you have as well. Don't forget to click subscribe for more strategies on how to build that life of health and well-being that are centered in connecting to your innate wisdom, building that health of care and attunement. You can also go to nourishwhoyouare.com if you are interested in some support on your journey. I'm a health coach and would love to support you in that process. You can sign up for a free coaching session. We'll do some coaching, and I'll also share with you what it would look like if you're interested in more long-term support working with a coach. The link is in the video description, nourishwhoyouare.com. Don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.